Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are going to be checking out the next installment of Bricky's Warhammer 40k, every faction explained, though he's only explaining the Imperium. But before we get started, if you two would trade your scrawny human legs for some jacked robot legs, hit that subscribe button. Of course, be sure to like the video, and also check out my second channel. Check out my merch store. We have merch. The designer got the shirt back to me. They are for sale. I think it looks pretty dope, but check it out for yourselves. And yeah, that's it. Let's get started.
Technology!
The Adeptus Mechanicus. The Adeptus Mechanicus are a technophile cult on Mars. Now, these people are a little bit weird because they don't actually really believe in the Emperor of Mankind. And you might think, oh, whoa, Bricky, that sounds like some heresy. A little bit. They believe in the Emperor, they believe in his power, but they don't pray to him. They pray to something called the Omnissiah. And the Omnissiah is this kind of machine god that they believe permeates in all machines. And if you think, well, wait a minute, they believe in a different god as well? That sounds like super heresy. Well, yes-ish, but they also make all your guns, and they make all your tanks, and they make everything that you have?
Okay, so actually there's a lot of historical precedent for this sort of what I'm going to call a religious compromise, right? And this is when usually one country or people group are like conquered by another, and they impose their religion on them, or two people groups kind of have to interact together and their religions sort of merge over time. You see this a lot actually with basically people that were colonized or had like Catholicism imposed on them. The classic example being the early European pagans who, of course, did not celebrate Jesus, did not care when Jesus' birthday was, but had existing solstice, spring and winter solstice festivals. And so the Catholic Church just sort of allowed the celebration of Jesus' birth and resurrection to sort of take place right next to or right adjacent with pagan solstice rituals, right? Easter and Christmas, respectively. You also see this in a lot of South American South and Central American countries. Their version of Catholicism often features the Virgin Mary having this role and assuming some of the iconography of fertility goddesses that existed in the pre-Columbian religions. So pretty cool to see lots of the ways that not only the religions show up, but a lot of the trappings and the ceremony get retained. Again, often in ways that are pretty interesting. And it's sort of interesting that, again, if you were to say be in Western Europe in the Middle Ages or in the early Enlightenment, right? It would be pretty heretical actually to argue that the Virgin Mary was really a fertility goddess. But of course, in Spanish South and Central America, that was taken as the default and a way to integrate previous religious practices with Catholicism. So again, a long history of these sort of religious compromises, we're going to say.
So you can't really tell them to fuck off? Because you're not going to win nothing if you don't got stuff to shoot people with. See, their Omnissiah at least makes sense from their standpoint. They believe it to be a deity that permeates through all machines. Your Honda Civic, your standard bolt gun, your Dune Strider Walker, your giant mechs, your huge ships. The Omnissiah is present through all. And the only reason your stuff works is because the machine's spirit in it says it works. If you want your gun to work.
So it's sort of interesting. I know some of the commenters, let me know if this is indeed correct, but said that sometimes the machine spirits are actually like literal brains of, or like lobotomized or cut up brains of people, right? Because the Imperium of Man cannot use AI due to some bad previous experiences. So I'm curious if the machine spirits are like a genuine fiction, right? A genuine fictional religion, which doesn't seem to exist in Warhammer 40k, right? It seems like most religious practices are based on a real physical god, or a real god which manifests. So is there a machine god who manifests? Is it indeed just the Emperor willing machines to work? This is a bizarre exception in a universe of already some bizarre stuff.
Your tank to run, you must pray to it. And I mean full stop. You need to start chanting in high Gothic. You need to burn incense. You need to sit on your knees and pray to that.
To be clear, we definitely had some really finicky vehicles when I was deployed, and I'm not saying we prayed to them, but sometimes you did have to sing a song and dance a little bit to, if the AC was going to run that day, or if, the timing belt was going to hold together till the end of your patrol, So, yeah, definitely ritual and machines go together more than you think.
Car, you need to rub oil on your robes, and you need to go humana, 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 humana. Full stop. If you want your damn thing to work, if you want your gun to fire, you need to do that. They are very bizarre.
How did the Emperor get sold on this extremely religious cult? Were they just too powerful? Like that old Big E was just like, okay, everyone has to be atheist except for the people who are mostly machines. Machines can believe whatever they want.
And they actually have a bit of a point, because it's obviously working. And if you look at them, I don't know how that works. So they obviously know something about what they're doing. The most notable member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is Archmagos, whatever, Belisarius Call. Look at this dude. Look at this dude. Yeah, this is the group we're talking about. These are these weirdos. Here, the Omnis.
Okay, so what's interesting is that the Adeptus Mechanicus seems to embrace what we sometimes now call transhumanism. And transhumanism is a sort of philosophy that believes that human beings going into the future will become more and more enhanced by technology, and eventually, of course, become something, transition into something beyond human. And of course, the interesting thing is that this process has been going on almost since humans have developed, right? The idea that the human body can only do X, but by enhancing it with technology, we can do much, much more. Think about, for example, the fact that a diabetic can have a pacemaker and will enable them to live their lives, live full, happy, productive lives with a disorder that could kill them if they didn't manage it. Another example would be things like pacemakers. Even the titanium plates and screws to hold old injuries together. We also have examples of, the Tommy John surgery, right? It's using like a tendon from your wrist in a shoulder or something but it's an elective surgery that helps Major League Baseball pitchers extend their careers for longer, right? One of the few examples of surgeries that don't just mitigate a problem but actually enhance performance. But what's even more interesting about transhumanism is that the examples go so far back, right? If I told you that there was a way to turn a regular human soldier, make them run, 3 times faster, range 6 times as long, see the battlefield much at a level several feet above their human peers, you would think, oh, you must be talking about, an Astartes or something. But no, that's actually what Attila the Hun and his Mongols used by using the technology of stirrups and, of course, the technology of training horses for war. And by using that and combining those things into an organized fighting force, they suddenly gave themselves a group of soldiers who were taller, who could run faster, who could range further, using just some simple integration of human beings and technology. So, again, an interesting sort of perspective on transhumanism.
Nicene Creed. The credo, omnissiah. There is no truth in flesh, only betrayal. There is no strength in flesh, only weakness. There is no constancy in flesh, only decay. There is no certainty in flesh, but death. Flesh is weakness, flesh is death. The Omnissiah is the God of the machines, and if you wish to be whole, if you wish to be holy, if you wish to give unto him, you must saw down your limbs and remove your organs and replace them with mechanical parts, because that is what he wants, and that is how you will become enlightened. Hard technophiles mixed with religious extremism.
My wife compares these to, she says this is like the end game of like the worst Silicon Valley techno bro. She might not be wrong. I feel like there's at least 10% of like hardcore Silicon Valley tech people that would be like, yeah, I want to be a cyborg.
Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, for their army side of things, they are with the Scutari. The Scutari operate with very bizarre weaponry and lots of different kinds of vehicles, tanks, and different people in between. They're very weird, but they have extremely wacky and enjoyable, and in fact quite effective both in the real game and in the lore, weaponry and gear. Overall, as an army on the tabletop, they're very weird and have a whole bunch of different shenanigans, but if you like kind of that quirky, wacky techno thing, I'd give them a pickup. Hell, they're so paranoid. I gotta keep going. They're so paranoid and crazy. These Dune Striders you see right here, one guy was able to make them work. One guy, and he died. And they're so scared they'll never work again that they keep them on and they never turn them off, and they run around in a circle the whole time until they need them, and then they corral it and they go into battle. Yep. The Adeptus Mechanicus.
It's really hard. Again, it's hard for me to understand the mentality of like, oh, we're going to like be techno nerds, but the idea, the like scientific method is lost. Because like even before the Enlightenment, right? Every 100 years or so, you could see steady human technological progress. Like human beings they're just so damn competitive. They just keep innovating, literally even when left to their own devices. Not always evenly, and not always as fast as others, and that innovations don't always diffuse, or they diffuse in weird ways. But the chances that for 10,000 years all technology will stagnate, it seems unlikely. Even during like the darkest of the dark ages, right? You can see very clearly huge innovations in building and architectural construction techniques, right? You look at the high Middle Age cathedrals and you compare it to the early Middle Age cathedrals, and you can see, you're like, oh, a tremendous amount of engineering technology has been developed in the intervening several hundred years. You see it again in the warfare, right, of the Dark Ages, right? You look at the early Middle Age warfare, and it was knights, but they were equipped almost like Roman legions, right, in terms of their material. And by the time you get to the high Middle Ages, you see a totally different. You see early gunpowder, you see early cannon, you see the rise of professional armies, you see infantry, and cavalry is just on its, the cavalry that remains is heavily armored, right? And that's during a period of what in Western Europe is considered scientific stagnation, right? And of course, we know that the Middle Ages in Europe may have been one way, but it was a golden age in the Middle East and the Ottoman Empire, et cetera, right? One person's dark age is someone else's, somewhere else's golden age. But yeah, the idea that you have this 10,000 year period of almost zero human progress seems sort of unlikely.
Mechanicus. Now, if you want to talk about faith, though, let's talk about the Sisters of Battle.
A simp has fallen for an e-girl in Lego City.
The Sisters of Battle of the Adeptus Sororitas, if that's how I pronounce it correctly, is an all-female group of battle sisters going through the ecclesiarchy section of the Imperium. The ecclesiarchy is, of course, the church. This is, imagine a private army of the church.
There's a lot of actually history in, history of churches having private armies. Of course, the most prominent is, again, the Pope in the early Middle Ages, early and mid-Middle Ages, where, of course, the Vatican could both raise armies from others, usually vassal states, but often commanded their own armies. There are even popes that have led armies in the field, in battle. So, again, it's not uncommon at all. And, again, the notion of a private army is not something you would see in the Middle Ages. And, again, it probably looks more like this setup here in Warhammer, where the ecclesiarchy's armed wing is not really a private army. It's an armed force of the Imperium, right, just commanded in a different way from a different route. And that's what the armies, again, of the Middle Ages probably would have looked more like, where you had, the army, like the Crusades, right, where, was it the Pope's army? Well, yeah, he commanded them, but they were the armies of the individual kings and dukes and other vassals underneath them. It was their armies, too. So, again, that public and private distinction doesn't really hold up there or in the Middle Ages or, of course, in the Warhammer 40k that was inspired by it.
Which is scary, and it is. The Sisters are an extremely zealotous force, and they take this to a full extreme. They believe in three main things: faith, martyrdom, and fire. Through the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, the Sisters of Battle are extremely potent at taking out chaos and heretics. Mainly heretics, because as they are a fighting section of the ecclesiarchy church, that's the big thing they want to kill. Any form of heretic will face the Emperor's justice through those three main weapons, the Bolter, the Flamer, and the Melta, and they will do so with extreme prejudice. Literally. They are the closest things we have to nuns in space. And I'm talking...
Okay, I'm just going to point this out. Again, that nothing about what they're doing sounds like nuns. The two orders of nuns, again, in the Catholic Church, which is what I'm most familiar with. You have orders that are dedicated to prayer, which is they stay in their convent and largely focus on prayer and quiet reverence and worship. And you have orders dedicated to service, which exclusively help the community or the church in nonviolent ways, right? So some provide services to the church itself, and then others, for example, like Mother Teresa, provide services to the poor, the downtrodden, to those who need the help the most. I'm sure somewhere in the Vatican there is some sort of investigative arm that handles, investigations of church and church personnel. I don't know how good they are at their job, but surely they exist. But I don't think they are anything like the scale of the Adepta Sororitas.
Fucking hardcore nuns. They carry holy fire on their backs. They have holy books and sigils all across their armor. Their main battle tank is a fucking pipe organ missile launcher. They have...
Yeah, this is like peak Warhammer 40k absurdity. Also, what's interesting is the Vatican actually does have a modern army. It's called the Swiss Pontifical Guard, and they are a extremely long-serving, very small military and police force that handles the Vatican. So they do VIP protection for the Pope, and they also do regular policing of the Vatican, tourist sites, that sort of thing. They look more like a very well-equipped urban European police force than a true army, but they have a fascinating retinue of uniforms, which if you search, there's a channel called Uniform History that does an awesome overview of their different uniforms. But they are required to be of Swiss blood. Again, a long-standing tradition somehow involving the Kingdom of Switzerland and the Pope. But yes, only the Swiss may staff the Pontifical Swiss Guard. So yes, the Pope still does have his private army. As far as I know, they do not burn heretics. But who knows? The Vatican can get pretty weird sometimes.
Small babies that they have like removed their brain capacity to make them little servant cherubs to fly around and give them ammunition and shit. They drop churches from low orbit as mini drop pods onto battles. They drop churches into battles and they blare war hymns and holy music from their frigates in low atmosphere and shower holy water across the battlefield. These are the people you are dealing with, and they're fucking awesome. They can literally...
Yeah, this is so absurd. I'm not even going to offer anything resembling technical commentary. Like, this is too crazy. It's like they're not even they're not trying. I mean, nothing in Warhammer, right, is real war related, but this is just too far beyond the pale. Like, I won't even bother to tell you why dropping a church from low Earth orbit is a bad idea.
Literally stave off demons.
Though really, anything with I think technically, if you have a priest in it and he blesses it, anything can be a church. So you could just turn a drop pod into a church on a technicality. Boom. Gotcha.
On the tabletop, because their faith is that strong. Remember the warp, the demons from the warp? Well, the warp also manifests in your mind. All of your emotions, negative and positive, go through the warp. It's the immaterium, the place of all things. So if you are that mentally fortified, that mentally strong, you can stave off horrifying demons. And all these girls, oh, not a crack. Not a crack in that mental armor. Now, as much as a meme as they are, and as much as their models look a lot like Ongo Gabloglian, yeah, which I can't unsee anymore, I gotta say, I love their design. I think they're extremely cool. They're another army that I'm currently collecting. They just released a whole new line of figures very recently, and they look wonderful. Everything from Celestine, the living, literally undying saint, from the triumph of Saint Catherine, which is literally a funeral procession as a model, those organ tanks I mentioned earlier. This shit is the most over-the-top badassery in a lot of the Warhammer universe, and goddamn it is it over the top. But Sisters of Battle are so cool. While I'm a guardsman at heart, oh, this is such a cool faction. By Bolter Shell, Flamer Burst, and Melta Blast, the mutant, the heretic, and the traitor alike are cleansed of their sin of existence.
I love that, the sin of existence, like, Jesus.
So it has been for 5 millennia, so shall it be until the end of time. And speaking of burning demons,
I can see!
I can fight!
the Grey Knights are the first army I actually collected back in 7th edition. The Grey Knights are a super secretive and much more old school look at power armored knights, except they are all psychers. All of them have that crazy space magic magician shit. For every 100,000 guardsmen, there's one Grey Knight. For every 10,000 Sisters of Battle, there's one Grey Knight. For every 1,000 Space Marines, there's one Grey Knight. Grey Knights are the strongest of the strong, both in mental will and absolute just strength. These are Space Marines that are all high-level psychers, all of them able to specifically do one goal, and that is kill demons. The Emperor believed that the demons of chaos were the #1 threat to the Imperium, and he probably is right. However, this group is entirely based on doing that through a mere...
Okay, so question for the lore experts. Can you guys let me know? Are the Grey Knights a specific chapter of the Space Marines? I see this guy's got the symbol of the Inquisition on his chest. Are they the Inquisition? Are they a subset of the Inquisition? Or do they just like show up and work for the Inquisition when it suits them? Is it like the Custodies where like they kind of don't answer to anybody but themselves? Yeah, let me know in the comments. I'm still trying to get a handle on this. And I know Bricky compromises with explanation sometimes for the sake of brevity.
Period of tactics. Coming from the planet, or I guess the moon of Titan in the Sol system, the Grey Knights are thrown through extremely rigorous training and are as clear of mind and soul as they possibly can be. Since the demons of the warp are the warp and your mind projects to the warp, people can go insane very fast, especially lower level psychers. These Grey Knights need to be able to harness the warp in the presence of demons and stay perfectly sane. One of their characters, one of my favorite characters, is named Castellan Crow. He has a demon blade, the black blade of Mahamahama, and he has to have it on him because it tempts everyone nearby, constantly beckoning them. Use my power, use my strength, suck my penis, whatever the possibility. And so he has to keep it on him all the time as this thing whispers to him consistently, and he has to stave it off forever, being alone in his chambers or on the battlefield, because anyone who gets too close to it might be tempted a little too hard. He is that pure of heart and mind, and all the characters in the Grey Knights are basically like that. The only issue...
So, okay, here's two interesting points. One, if you've never done the mindfulness type of meditation, it sounds like it is the real-world proxy for this sort of mental training they're describing, right? And the idea is that, the basic exercise is that you relax and you focus your mind on a singular idea or thing. And, the way I was trained was, to focus on relaxing one muscle, each muscle in your body at a time. Do so very slowly, kind of breathe into it and out of it, but focus entirely, your entire concentration on that individual body part. And the goal is to not let your mind ever wander, to ever think of anything other than that one specific thing. Now, the other catch is, of course, beating yourself up over thinking about something else is also thinking about something else. So you have to just acknowledge that your mind has wandered and then let it go. And if you've ever tried it, it's actually extremely hard to do. But your mind also responds to training really well, sort of like your body responds really well. Most bodies respond really well to strength training, right? They get stronger. And your mind can actually respond to this sort of concentration training or this focus training also very, very well. And of course, supposedly it can confer a fair amount of not just focus, but give you some ability to tune out negative stimulus. And at least for me, in things like athletic events or competitions, the ability to take the crowd away, the ability to take away the sort of metagame, right? To be like, oh, what round am I in? Where are my points at? And to dial your focus into the exact moment in which you are competing is a pretty good skill. But again, developing it like true experts in meditation, and I would argue my wife actually is one, but it's really, really hard to do. And to be able to focus your mind without intrusions for, again, you're talking about, for me, doing it for like 20 straight minutes is like pretty tough. Would be like the high water mark of what I've ever achieved, and I don't think I could achieve that now. And so, but experts, they can do it for 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 8 hours at a time. It's extremely hard, and when they talk about that sort of mental training that the Grey Knights go through, again, in Warhammer 40k, it's probably ratcheted up to like 11. I'm sure they're like burning them with poles or something while they demand that they, focus and not feel it. But yeah, what's interesting is that, we're starting to understand now the science of mental training, right? Training your mind to perform. And athletics are starting to drink the Kool-Aid, right? You have sports psychologists, sport mental coaches, but the military really hasn't. The best they've gotten is figuring out, making mental health care more accessible for soldiers, right? And helping soldiers to bounce back from, regular life stressors like divorces or illnesses, but also bounce back from things like deployments. And, having access to that mental health care and proper good therapy gets soldiers back operating at their full capacity, gets them sooner, right? Gets more soldiers better, faster. But the terms of the science of building a more resilient, more focused, more capable soldier, it's not really been adopted by the military at all.
Issue is that Grey Knights have a scorched earth policy, more ways than one. If they're fighting demons, demons corrupt and make people crazy. So if I'm a guardsman and I'm fighting demons and the Grey Knights arrive and they kill all the demons, I'm a risk. And so guess who's not making it out of there? On the tabletop, they're very strike fast, strike hard kind of people. They teleport all around the place. They are fast strike groups, small amounts of models because they're so dang strong. You only have so many characters, but with it, you get in there, you're very tough, very tanky, you hit really hard, and you try to bounce around the battlefield quickly, but you don't have numbers, and so every dead Grey Knight hits really damn hard. They're fun, though, if you like that kind of fast-striking kind of army. Oh, and also, Caldor Drago is a thing. We're not even going to get into Caldor Drago. All right, that is, oh my goodness gracious. I am the hammer. I am the mail about his fist. I am the spear in his hand. Though we are lost, I am the shield on his arm. I am the flight of his arrows. I am the hammer. I am the sword. I am the shield. I am a soldier at the battle at the end of time. Grey Knights are pretty hardcore. They are as holy as you can get for a Space Marine. If you like Space Marines and you want to, think they're holy enough, you want to be holier, Grey Knights. Now, if you want to be holier and big, let's talk Imperial Knights.
All right, guys, we are going to pause it right there. That's a logical stopping point. We are right around 30 minutes, and I'm trying to keep my videos reasonable. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining the End of the Video Club. Be sure, of course, to hit like. Let me know in the comments, man, if I missed anything, if I mischaracterized anything, or let me know what our friend Bricky kind of glossed over. I always read them, even if I don't necessarily always have the time to respond to them. I do have a day job. And, of course, hit subscribe, check out the merch, check out the second channel, check out the Instagram. And until next time, I will see you guys later.